4 different communities out there. We just want to provide some consistency in how we operate, communicate, and manage the LMDs. We want to make sure, and this is important, that we being the lake management districts are in alignment with county policies and initiatives, that we're singing the same tune and fully in line with, you know, the stormwater utility and the IPM policy and safety rules and all of the different policies, rules, initiatives that that we at the county are charged with operating under.
So Tim, I don't know, do you want us to ask questions as we go along?
Frank, I would prefer that you wait to the end if that works for
Okay.
you. I think,
You
yeah, okay, good, thank you. And then most importantly, from the county's perspective, is that minimizing of risk. So, you know, the difference between an LMD and all of those other structures that we just talked about is, with an LMD, the county assumes the risk. So, you know, if things go south out there and there is a bad pesticide application, or, you know, somebody operates in bad faith, that is the county, in most cases, that is going to bear the risk for that. So we want to tighten that up a little bit and make sure there's a clear understanding with how that's going to operate. Okay, so to talk about phasing a little bit. So for the new, the petitioning LMDs, Offutt and Pattison Lake, who we've already met with, there's an understanding all of these components of the admin rules would be applied upon formation. So day one, they're formed, they come on board, the administrative rules, they are expected to be operating under. It's a little bit different with Long and Lawrence, and that is because we want to be respectful, and we want to honor the understanding that may have been communicated prior to me coming on in 2015, 2016 with your guys' last re-up. So for these communities, we are going to phase in some of the administrative rules. So for Long Lake and for Lawrence Lake, I did this counting on my fingers before this meeting. So if I'm off here, please let me know. So Long Lake would be due to re-up in 2026, January 1, 2026. For Lawrence, this would be January of 2027. So for existing LMDs, the IVAMPs, the Integrated Aquatic Vegetation Management Plans, will be discussed and updated as soon as reasonably possible. Doug, we had some discussion on this at the steering committee meeting last week. While we have communicated to the board that we will be being very urgent about these to make sure that there are updated plans in place, we definitely want to make sure that we're not being counterproductive and trying to, you know, have an IVAMP updated, the cost of that comes along with it, only to use it for a year and then have the requirement be that we update it again in the following year. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So there will be some discussion on this, but the expectation is that relatively soon we will have IVAMPs in place for Long and Lawrence, updated IVAMPs. For the existing communities, those would need to be in place before we do any work out there. So the other components of the admin rules, it sounds like you've probably already gone through some of those. You will see that most of those have been communicated out before verbally. Most of them are complied with the majority of the time, but we just, again, we want to document those. We want to have a place we can refer back to, and we don't want any question when these come up. Okay, the LMD rules can be found on the Thurston County Healthy Lakes website at this link. So if you haven't been on that website yet, I would recommend that you go on. This is under the Lake Management District tab. So along with these, you can also find, I think we put together maybe 5 pages of frequently asked questions regarding to lake management districts. So some good information on there, and we will be building that out in the coming months. And then also, you can get them through myself or Paula. If you're having trouble with the website or want some copies or whatever, just let us know and we can make sure you get those. Okay, so the major areas of the admin rules that we're about to walk through, you're going to see a section on advisory committee elections for Long and Lawrence. This is going to be new. The frequency of meetings is somewhat new. Shouldn't be too much of a surprise to you, but it's somewhat new. We're going to go through the roles and responsibilities of Thurston County as well as the advisory committee. So we're very clear on what everybody is tasked with. We're going to go through annual and long-range work plan development. We're going to talk a little bit more about the IVAMPs. And we have a section in there about the stormwater fee reduction. And this is really kind of the second step in creating accountability of what the LMD is doing and making sure it's in alignment with the stormwater utility program so that we can continue to justify that ratepayers within the LMDs continue to receive that rate reduction. So we'll talk about what that means and what the requirements are. So this is an important point. The Lmd Administrative Rules, they are our best shot at this point at addressing issues that have come up and speaking to the most common things that we need from you, you need from us, and the ways that we interact. They are not all inclusive. If we or you communicate back to us that, hey, you know, what about this area? You didn't think about this, or if we recognize that, if Paula and I are working with the communities and we recognize, oh my gosh, there's really no content for X, we're going to add that in here. And so these will be very likely updated on a periodic basis to meet those objectives of Rule 5, to minimize risk, to ensure communication, to meet all those objectives. Another word on that is for the petitioning communities and for the existing LMDs when they decide to re-up, if they decide to go the LMD route when they re-up, the resolutions of formation are going to be very specific in reference to these admin rules. They are going to say that they're going to say what an LMD is. They're going to speak to everything that's on your petition as far as what your goals are as a community. And they're also going to speak to these LMD rules as kind of our managing, our guidance for managing the LMDs. And it will say in the resolution that they may be updated periodically. So it's important to know that. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to attempt to stop sharing and I'll pull up the Word document and we'll start to walk through that. Okay, so now I need to end the slideshow. Okay, thank you for your patience. Is it Are you seeing a Word document now?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Miracles do happen, Paula.
Good job.
Okay, so these are the rules. There are 4 pages. Have any of you not seen them? I'll just ask that, I guess.
I've been on the LMD for Long Lake for 4 years and I have not seen these.
Okay, well, they are, it's a new document, relatively new document. So we'll walk through them. Okay, I'm just gonna read out. So these,
Can you make the document larger? It's very small on the screen.
I can
Yeah.
sure try.
Bottom right corner is your slider for large, making it larger.
Is that working?
Yep.
You can still be bigger.
Okay, I'm
Thanks. Thank you.
okay. Everybody can read that? Okay. All right, we're gonna roll through. These administrative rules provide the framework for how Thurston County will engage and manage communities who are ratepayers of an approved LMD. In forming an LMD rather than a lake association or special district, the county and community have elected to form a county managed program under the provisions of RCW. In furtherance of the LMD program, the county will maintain staff to serve as technical experts regarding lake management activities. County staff receive professional trainings and development and are responsible for adhering to county policies and procedures, state and federal regulations and standards, and for managing all lake programs to achieve alignment with industry best practices and greater county initiatives and guiding principles. While the provisions of RCW do not identify the need for community representation, Thurston County encourages the participation of LMD ratepayers in a county-managed advisory committee. The purpose of the committee is to provide valuable information and input to county staff for the development of short and long-term management strategies. Responsibility for daily operational activities and administrative functions of the LMD resides with county staff. So I'm guessing this will probably gather the largest conversation here. This is a change. And again, this would be if the LMDs re-up, this would be advisory committee elections. So should the community wish to have ongoing representation, the advisory committee would be managed by the county as follows. The advisory committee shall consist of 5 ratepayers elected from within the LMD boundaries, as well as representatives for public property as outlined below. Elections shall be a simple ballot method distributed via a special mailing to ratepayers and administered by Thurston County staff. In electing advisory committee members, each parcel included in the LMD boundary shall have 1 vote per dwelling unit. Undeveloped parcels shall have 1 vote per parcel. Publicly owned properties, if applicable, shall have a single representative serve on the advisory committee who will be appointed by the public agency. Advisory committees serve in an advisory capacity and do not have decision-making authority under RCW. Elections will be conducted within 90 days of formation of an LMD. Initial advisory committees will serve for an approximate 2-year term ending on December 31st. Subsequent elections will be administered by Thurston County during November of the calendar year preceding the expiration of current terms. Advisory committee members shall be elected by a straight majority vote and shall serve without compensation for the duration of the term. A vacancy arising during the term of an advisory committee member shall be filled by special election according to the same provisions set forth above for regular elections. An advisory committee member elected to fill a vacancy shall serve for the full balance of the term for which their predecessor was elected. So that's it on advisory committee elections. I know there's going to be some questions and comments on that. So if we can save those for the end, that would be great. So the frequency of the meetings, the advisory committee meetings shall meet at a frequency determined by Thurston County with input from the community, with the purpose of providing information and input to the county for short and long-term management strategy development. At a minimum, the advisory committee shall meet on a quarterly basis. I don't think that's too much of a departure from where we are, but we will definitely, it's not a one size fits all approach, and we'll definitely be involved with the community as far as their needs on that. So we're going to wrap into the roles and responsibilities. And these are roles and responsibilities of Thurston County and Thurston County staff. We're going to administer the LMD under the provisions of RCW 3661. We're going to serve as technical experts regarding all lake management activities, ensuring best management practices and sound lake management decision-making. We're going to ensure that adherence to all state and federal regs and all county-approved policies and procedures. Staff will ensure lake management activities are in alignment with greater county initiatives and guiding principles. We're going to develop and implement short and long-term lake management work plans and strategies. We're going to administer procurement and management of all contractors and professional services needed to carry out the work plan of the LMD. We're going to report annually to the Storm and Surface Water Utility to ensure work plans and messaging aligns with and support the goals of the utility. We're going to ensure reports are submitted to support Storm and Surface Water Utility fee reductions as available. We're going to act as the point of contact for communicating with contractors and field experts, including state and federal agencies. We're going to manage financial activities and responsibilities in alignment with generally accepted accounting principles and county financial policies and procedures applied consistently throughout the Public Works Department. We're going to provide you quarterly financial reports. And we're going to maintain an advisory committee comprised of community elected ratepayers and manage those elections per the process outlined. We're going to create and distribute meeting schedules and agendas as needed to support annual work plans and solicit constructive feedback on short and long-term goals and objectives. And we're going to serve as facilitator at all advisory committee meetings. So we're more than halfway through, so hang in there. We have advisory committee roles and responsibilities. The expectation is that you will actively engage with county staff during advisory committee meetings to provide input and information to assist the staff with shaping short and long-term programs and management strategies that are consistent with the lake management goals outlined by the community. You're going to act as a liaison between county staff and the LMD community members. Support county staff in achieving alignment between LMD goals and work plans with all board-approved policies and plans, including the county's IPM policy, shoreline management program, and the Thurston County Stormwater Management Program. Communicate with county designated staff, not directly with county managed consultants, contractors, or regulatory agency personnel unless prearranged by county staff. And lastly, to represent and communicate as a member of the LMD Advisory Committee, not as an agent of Thurston County. So it's important that, and the hope would be that you as an advisory committee, if you have somebody within your membership who's struggling with these rules and these roles and responsibilities, that that you would communicate with them and talk to them. If there is a problem and the county is at risk, then basically what the result of that would be engagement in the prohibited activities may result in suspension of work plan elements and or removal from the advisory committee. So annual long-range work plan development. Upon formation of a county managed advisory committee, the committee will assist county staff in developing a proposed 1-year and 5-year work plan. The work plans will take into consideration the goals of the community, as well as the alignment of those goals with other county managed water quality programs. Once a draft work plan is established, county staff will evaluate the staffing needs required to adequately meet the obligations of the draft work plan. The advisory committee may recommend the reduction of work plan components to align with available staffing resources or reduce staffing costs when appropriate. Work plans will be evaluated, discussed, and revised as needed on an annual basis, and input from the advisory committee will be submitted to county staff by July of the preceding year. The county, in its sole discretion, may deny or delay additions to annual work plans if staffing resources are not available to carry out designated activities. In addition, the county will evaluate advisory committee recommendations for work plan reductions, but may implement work plan elements to preserve water quality or meet state or federal standards or regulations. LMD budgets will be developed per best financial management practices and in alignment with county processes. The advisory committees will be engaged to provide feedback during the budget process at times that align with the county's approved budget development schedule. So integrated aquatic vegetation management plans. So the bottom line is IVAMPs are going to be required at the expense of the LMD. And for the new LMDs, that's prior to the implementation of any vegetation management activities that involve herbicides. Work plans may include staff support of applying for grant support of IVAMPs or for contributing to the writing of the plan when appropriate. All IVAMPs must adhere to the county's integrated pest management policy. So again, with Long and Lawrence, we can have some more conversation about this. With the bottom line is we want to have these implemented as soon as makes reasonable sense. Okay, lastly, stormwater fee reduction. So per current Thurston County Code, ratepayers of LMDs are eligible to receive a storm and surface water fee reduction of 50% or the amount of the charge from the district, whichever is less, provided the LMD is actively engaged in projects and programs which have water quality improvement as a primary goal and align with county water quality goals and messaging. To qualify for the fee reduction, annual work plans must be submitted to the storm and surface water utility and discussed prior to July of the year preceding the work plan implementation. Based upon the water quality improvement goals and messaging proposed in draft work plans, the county will either accept the work plan as meeting the requirements of the fee reduction criteria or will recommend an enhanced program to meet the intent of the code language. Additionally, LMDs must submit an annual report by February 28th to the Storm and Surface Water Utility, summarizing work plan efforts that were conducted during the previous calendar year to meet the obligations outlined. So hang on just a minute. I see, let's see. Okay, is there a preference as we open this up for discussion if I should continue to share so that we can refer back to the admin rules, or does everybody have enough information that I should stop sharing? Any preference?
Well, my suggestion would be to see if there's questions on that admin rules, and then you could scroll to
Okay, that sounds good. Frank.
to
Let's
answer
do
that
that.
question, but that's just me.
So, Tim, are these rules open for any kind of discussion? None of the LMDs were involved in the development of these. And will we be considered in looking at revising these?
Here's what I would say, Doug. I would say that they were developed in order to meet those objectives on the slide from our perspective as the managing agency. So having said that, and I think when we go back to the PowerPoint slide, PowerPoint presentation on the last slide, we would encourage feedback. If there are questions, if there's feedback, we would welcome that. We will look at all of it. Is that going to lead to something different? May or may not. So hopefully that answers your question. They're not up for debate. if that makes sense. But we do value your feedback, and especially with advisory committees and things like that, you know, it will likely need some dialing in. So we would appreciate your feedback on that.
Yeah, see, the two existing LMDs are set up differently, and Long Lake is more in line with most of this. There are some differences and some areas that we would want to discuss, but you know, we already have semi-elected people and then officers and that kind of thing. But okay, so basically we can give comments and you might consider them. So
Yes, I would, if you have feedback on any of this now or later, Doug and everybody else, please send me an email with your thoughts.
yeah, and that's what I would plan to do is go through and just send you my comments so you have it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Similarly, along those lines, I assume the Board of County Commissioners have or have not approved these rules as written. I mean, it's a de facto change.
The county board tasks Public Works with developing rules and responsibilities. So this is not something that we would typically take to the board and have them approve, Frank. And I know that questions came up before, but to answer your question, no, they have not gone before the board for approval.
Okay.
Tim?
One thing right there, while you got that, I don't want to take somebody else's, maybe we ought to hold our hands up or something. Right in front of you, right there, it says, while the provisions of RCW 3661, see that paragraph?
Yes, sir.
I agree. It doesn't specifically say that. And RCW 3661 is way too loosely written. But implicitly, the whole idea with 3661 is to get the county and the communities involved. So yeah, I agree. It doesn't specifically say we have to have community representation. But the whole purpose of 3661 is to involve the community. So I object to what that's the way that I perceive that sentence there. Again,
Well,
we could develop feedback, I guess, to you, but that blows my mind. I mean, I think it implies that we have community representation.
Yeah, and if you look at the second part of that first sentence, it's, you know, Thurston County encourages the participation of LMD ratepayers in that advisory committee. What I'm trying to speak to there, Frank, is, you know, I've been involved with an LMD in the past that the community wanted to be involved, but they wanted to be involved very little. You know, they wanted to check in a couple times a year and get an update, and that was about it. So what I'm trying to speak to here is, if the community doesn't want represented and doesn't want to maintain an advisory committee, or doesn't want the county to maintain an advisory committee, that's okay. Develop a work plan for us and we'll send you out a report once a year or whatever. Is that going to happen? We don't expect it to happen, but that's what it is. But no, so we're certainly not suggesting that they're continue, or that there all of a sudden is not community representation there. Gary?
Yeah, just a couple of quick comments. Correct me if I'm wrong in my perception. The county, the state, the county doesn't have funds to really do anything in terms of lake and water quality improvement unless an LMD or SUD is formed, and then they get funding to make that happen. Would you say that's a true statement?
I'm saying, I would say that depends, Gary, and a lot of it, and I don't mean to, you know, kind of parse hairs here, but, you know, it depends on what water quality is. So we have a stormwater utility that one of their major drivers is water quality. not necessarily for recreational purposes, but for true water quality.
Right.
So to that end, the county has funding to support some water quality initiatives and programs. And the board certainly has the general fund, which they could, leverage and have leveraged to support some of this.
But to treat weeds and to deal with algae blooms, is you don't have enough money where you're covering IVAMPs and stuff on your own without getting your local residents to tax themselves to provide funding to make that happen. True?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. I mean,
Okay.
there's going to be, pollution prevention problems or programs and nutrient reduction,
Mhm.
education and things like that. But in the water, alum treatments and things like that, you're completely accurate.
Okay, and just other general comment is we hear a lot about best practices all along the way. It just seems to me to be not quite sincere, because it seems to me communication best practices is to involve your stakeholders in a discussion while rules are being formed, rather than pronounce new rules, say you can give feedback, which we will consider, but there's no binding. So that doesn't seem like best practices to me. And the other thing that doesn't seem like best practices to me is the fact that control has been shifted. So now the control is 100% with the county. Steering committees reduced to advisory committees, have steering committees with no control, yet it is the individuals in the steering committee who voted to tax themselves to accomplish a process that the county says, thanks for the money, we're totally in charge. You can advise us if you like. And another best practices that doesn't seem quite true to me is the election process. And maybe you just haven't spelled it out yet. But if every 2 years, or whatever the cycle is, all 5 members are elected again, you start with a clean slate. There should be overlapping best practices. Says you elect 1 county commissioner at a time, not all 3 at a time, or 2 of 3. And so that doesn't seem like best practices also. So those are comments. You don't have to respond to them, but I just wanted to speak them. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Gary. We have some more hands that are raised, and I would like to hear from some of the members of the existing LMDs. Kim, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. So thank you for this meeting. I appreciate it. A couple of comments. I actually agree with the provision, that line, the one that Frank brought up, that it says it does not, RCW 3661 does not identify the need for community representation. But when I do look at, on the Thurston County website, at the 3661-010, number 4, it does talk about that the purpose of the chapter is to establish a governmental mechanism by which property owners can embark on a program of lake or beach improvement and maintenance for their and their public's benefit, health, and welfare. So, maybe the word need is, in your sentence is striking a chord for me, but I just feel that the intention of the RCW is really to partner with, the community. So that's just point 1. In point 2, the way the rules are laid out, if the advisory committee truly has no, I don't want to say control, but even effect, then I don't understand why we would have to go to all this trouble to elect members and pay for elections, and have all of these rules when it's really just an advisory committee for us giving our input to you so that, you and the county can make kind of the best decisions possible. I think that it's worked well the way it is today, and those people who want to participate, unfortunately, we have fewer than I would hope, on the committee. But I'm very happy with the way things are with that. So I'll keep it to that for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Any other comments? We have about 11 minutes left, so.
I have one that's quick. I'm not sure how to raise my hand. I'm looking for a button.
Oh, no problem.
Okay, and I don't mean to dominate other folks that might want to put inputs, but the thing that I see that's missing in this whole thing, Tim, and this past year was a perfect example, is fiscal and functional responsibility and accountability. So who holds, I'll say you guys, but the county accountable for making these unilateral budget changes at the last minute, in fact, retrofitted in the case of the IT debacle? I mean, where is those words in here?
Well, Frank, I appreciate that. I think the closest you're going to get to that is under the Thurston County Rules and Responsibilities for Financial Practices. At this point here, manage financial activities and responsibilities in alignment with generally accepted accounting principles and county financial policies and procedures applied consistently throughout Public Works Department.
So you're saying that what happened with the IT retrofit, and Doug Long Lake got hit harder than we did, that's consistent with county policy?
I would say, Frank, that situation was not smooth and could have been, in retrospect, could have been handled differently. But I think, Frank, a conversation about it in a little more detail might help you and help others understand what happened there and why you weren't communicated with early on. I understand the frustration, I truly do. But I think rather than just going to, hey, the county is trying to take our money or something like that, I think a conversation might put it in more perspective. And
My point at this forum, though, Tim, is there's no systemic language in this that would prevent that from happening again. In fact, because of that, it would encourage it to happen again. It's an open-ended checkbook. I've been fighting this since 2010, if not before, since I joined the LMD, about there's just no fiscal constraints on what you guys can charge us. And forget about the functional aspects of it for a second. I'm talking just fiscal. There's no discipline as to what you can and can't charge. To say that something that cost us $6,000, whatever the exact dollar amount was, is going to help us in 2 to 3 years by bringing the cost down. Okay, how much, when? I mean, we're spending this money, it's capital investment on an IT upgrade. I'm not faulting that, but we weren't involved in it to say, okay, if we implement this and charge you guys $6,000, in year 2, you're going to save this amount, and years 3 through 10, you're going to save this amount. There's just no involvement with the community on fiscal matters. It's just an open-ended.
yeah. No, I hear you. I would respectfully push back on your comment about we can charge for whatever, whenever, or whatever your comment was.
I know that's kind of
but
not good, but I you know what I'm saying.
I do, and I appreciate that, and I guess what I would say is I would back way up to a high level, and I would say I would say that the Public Works, and I'm authentically speaking here, I think that Public Works does a very good job with your budgets. Could we do better? Yes, we strive for that. And if we backed up and we're telling you what we're going to do as far as financial management, if you with your experience with the county and with your experience with the county over time, if you're not seeing a trend that looks good to you, then let us help you find a structure that you can be comfortable with. And I don't mean that in a bad way at all, because we want the communities to be happy. We can't continually be on the defensive, Frank, about the management, the financial management of these LMDs. I think Water Resources manages $14 or $16 million a year, and we put a lot of scrutiny on these LMD budgets. And do we make mistakes from time to time? And does it cost you $30 here and something there? Yes, and we would love to be made aware of that, and we will work to fix that wherever we can. It won't always be mistake free, and we're always willing to have a conversation. You heard about the IT debacle, as you put it, from me. So it's not like we were trying to hide that. We made you aware as soon as within days of hearing that the budgets were going to receive a journal entry for that. So I guess that's what I would say about that, Frank. I do understand and respect your thoughts and comments there. But there has to be a point where you're either comfortable with it or you're not. And happy to talk to you or your committee more about it at any point. Anybody else? Kim, is your hand back up again, or did it not go down?
It is,
Awesome.
if I may.
Yeah.
Thank you. With regard to the special district, I mean, I don't even think that's an option for Lake Lawrence. And we've talked about the liability issue. For us to, because we looked into it, for us to get some type of liability insurance, it's going to cost us, we looked at it at one time before, probably half or more than half of our budget. So for us, and kind of to Doug's point earlier, if we decide not to do an LMD, we have no weed control out there. I believe that the county is only responsible for public health issues and the yellow flags. And so really we're left with, the LMD is, I feel like, our only option. And, so I would like to find a way that we can communicate better and come to some level of partnership versus only, advisory, because, as Doug said, I mean, the people have voted to give more money, to make sure that their lake is taken care of. So I think there's value in having a stronger input than just an advisory. Thanks.
No, thanks, Kim. Good comment. Anybody else? We're getting down to it here. Doug, do you have any comments?
I do. I guess after hearing what everybody said and what you replied to, Tim, one of the things that we have to keep in mind is, and this is Long Lake's opinion, I think, I'm not just giving you mine, is that doing business as a lake management district is the right thing to do. It's the best thing for the county, and it is the best thing for the health of the lake. if any other form of organization, the SUD, homeowners association, lake association, or whatnot, puts that control in the hands of a board of directors that's part of the community. And that means that any chemical approved by the state ecology can be used by the association because they use the permit of the applicator. Any member or lakefront property owner on those lakes can use any state approved herbicide on their property. So control of the use of chemicals in the lake will be lost as far as, I mean, it won't be totally lost because ecology still governs it, but nevertheless, there's no overall control. So it is to all of our best interests, all of us, county and the LMDs, to find out a way for us to make this whole system work.
Thank you, Doug. No, those are good comments. I would like to bring up a couple points on that. I mean, you know, if we watch, you know, some of the different board meetings and some of the articles in the paper and some of the comments that are out there, there is also, you know, a lot of diverse opinions on what is best for water quality. I mean, you could certainly play the devil's advocate and say that there's no two lakes in the county that apply as much herbicide as these lakes, and at the same time, not any other lakes in the county that are having as much problem with vegetation and algae. So, you know, what is best for the lakes and for what is best for water quality may be not consistent across all opinions in the county. So we definitely want to think about, we the county want to think about all of those diverse opinions. But to your point, we're on board with you as far as what we consider water quality and improving water quality, and whether it's continuation of the lake management districts or some other structure, we do want to support that. And you know, I've put it out there a couple times that sometimes, you know, talking about the expectations, or at least being clear on expectations and things like that, may get us to a point down the road where we are, like many of the other committees and boards that we work with, in front of the commissioners on an annual basis, side by side, talking about the good things that are happening versus pointing our fingers at each other. So, you know, whatever good lake management looks like, that would be of interest to us to get it looking something like that. Any last questions or comments? Anybody else? Running a little bit over here. Okay. Well, I really appreciate everybody's time and patience with this. For any of you and your committees, if you want follow-up information at one of the meetings, let us know. Or if you have feedback that you want to share versus email, you have our email addresses. If not, let us know. And
Yeah, Tim, thank you for that offer. This is Faith Jeffrey with Long Lake.
yeah,
You mentioned the other day in testifying with the commissioners that what you've done is you've gone out to the steering committee members for both lakes, and you set up regular meetings that occur every other Friday in your office to talk about trust and transparency. I would like to be added to that. I said I've been on the Long Lake Steering Committee since 2018, and I've never heard of these every other Friday meeting. I'd be interested in attending that. It may help to then not be, so surprised with administrative rules. The infamous 17,000 budget adjustment, those types of things.
Thank you, Faith. I appreciate that. That is a bit of a new development, but yeah, certainly I appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay, thanks again for your time, and we'll talk very soon. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Hi,
Appreciate it.
everybody. Have a good night.